Lifeguard and actor has died in a shark attack on the island of Oahu.
He was living his dream, loved by many, and known for his fearless spirit. But in just minutes, everything took a dark turn. What happened in those final moments is shocking, heartbreaking, and hard to believe. Stay tuned, because this story will leave you speechless. Tamayo Perry was no stranger to the ocean. For decades, he dominated some of the deadliest waves in the world. He wasn't just a surfer. He was a lifeguard, a teacher, even an actor who appeared in Pirates of the Caribbean. To the people of Hawaii, he was a waterman through and through, fearless, experienced, and deeply respected. But on June 23, 2024, the same ocean that shaped his life turned against him in the most violent way possible. That morning, the conditions on Oahu's north shore seemed perfect. The sun was high, the waves steady, and Perry did what he had done thousands of times before. He paddled out. This was routine for him. Nothing about that day hinted at the horror waiting beneath the surface. Out past Goat Island, where the water is wild and unguarded, Perry moved with confidence. But the ocean is unpredictable. And when it strikes without warning. Sharks don't give you a chance to prepare. There's no fin slicing through the water like the movies show. No dramatic buildup. 1 second, everything is calm. The next, blood fills the sea. Witnesses say it all happened fast. Too fast. Perry was gliding across a wave, his board carving through the water like always. Then the ocean exploded. A massive tiger shark, estimated at over 12 feet long, came from below. This wasn't a hesitant test bite. This was a full-force attack. The shark's jaws clamped down on his leg with terrifying power. Its serrated teeth ripped through flesh and bone in seconds. The water around Perry turned red instantly. He screamed for help, fighting through the pain, trying to break free. Years of lifeguard training kicked in. He knew where to hit, aiming for the nose, the eyes, anything that might make the predator release him. But it didn't let go. Instead, it came back for more. The second strike was even worse. It shredded through his body, leaving catastrophic wounds. Perry was still conscious, still fighting, but his strength was draining fast. With so much blood pouring into the ocean, his body was shutting down. Panic spread across the shore as surfers and beachgoers realized what they were witnessing. They scrambled to alert lifeguards, their shouts mixing with the roar of waves and the chaos unfolding in the water. Within seconds, lifeguards launched into action. Jet skis tore across the waves, rushing toward Perry. These weren't just rescuers. They were his colleagues, the very people he had worked with for years. When they reached him, Perry was barely alive. His body was pale, limp, his blood painting the sea around him. They hauled him onto the sled, racing against time. CPR, pressure on the wounds, anything to keep him alive. But deep down, they knew. The injuries were too severe. Even if they reached the shore, even if paramedics were waiting, the ocean had already claimed him. And yet, this wasn't just another shark attack. Something about it was different, darker, more brutal. Which raises the question, why did this happen the way it did? Most shark attacks end with a single bite. The predator mistakes a human for a seal, realizes the error, and moves on. But that's not what happened here. This wasn't a curious nibble. This was a full-on predatory assault, the kind that almost never happens. The shark didn't just bite and release. It struck again, relentless, as if Perry was real prey. That's what made this attack so horrifying. Experts know tiger sharks as apex predators. They don't just test the waters like smaller sharks. They dominate their territory. At over 12 feet long, this monster was built to kill. And in that moment, Perry, a man who had saved countless people from the ocean, was powerless against it. Imagine the terror, The sudden snap of bone, the crushing force of jaws that can bite through a sea turtle's shell, the helpless realization that your own ocean, the one you trusted with your life, is now your executioner. From the shore, people could only watch in shock. One surfer said the water went eerily silent before it happened, as if the ocean itself knew something was coming. Then, in a blink, Perry's fight for survival turned into a nightmare. The shark's first strike nearly tore through his leg. The second left him in critical condition. Witnesses saw him struggle, his arms thrashing, his voice breaking through the roar of waves. He wasn't just hurt, he was being hunted. When the lifeguards arrived, it was already too late. Perry's body was limp, his face drained of color, blood still pouring into the water. They pulled him onto the sled, racing back to shore. But the reality was brutal. There was nothing left to save. His colleagues worked frantically, pressing on wounds, pumping his chest, shouting his name, but the ocean had taken too much. By the time they reached the sand, Perry was gone. News spread instantly. A lifeguard, a surfer, an actor, dead in broad daylight, not from a freak accident, but from one of the most violent shark attacks Hawaii had seen in years. It wasn't just a tragedy, it was a shockwave through the surfing world. Because if Tamayo Perry, a man with decades of experience, a man who knew the ocean better than anyone, could fall victim like this, then what chance did anyone else have? But the bigger question lingers. Why did this shark attack with such intensity? Was it starving? Was it territorial? Or are the oceans themselves changing, driving predators to strike in ways we've never seen before?